Good evening to you. It is Thursday, February 16th. Purdue just lost by 14 points in Maryland, at Maryland. It just seemed like more points than that. Probably because it probably should have been more than that. I'll talk about why they lost the way they did and dig in a little deeper. But before I do, I feel bad actually thanking sponsors when I'm in this bad a mood, just because I don't want them to be lumped in with this. But through the good and through the bad, it's only Purdue's fourth loss on the season, so pretty good season still. But boy, they're at a crossroads. So thanks to our sponsors. I'm wearing a shirt from one of our sponsors. Thanks to Martin Vintage. Head over to martinvintage.com. Get a T-shirt, get a sweatshirt. Enter Boiled at checkout for 15% off. And when you're on campus, Purdue's next game is home. They're thank God they're back home versus Ohio State. Head over to AJ's on Vine, eatajs.com if you want to order ahead. Talk to my friend Adam if he's out there running around. You know what he looks like. He's a good guy. They've got a great staff there. Got TVs, so you can enjoy some other games before you head over to Mackey. eatajs.com. So Purdue drops their fourth game of the season, and in mid-February, that's a pretty nice place to be. But we all know that this event isn't isolated. Purdue's lost 3 of 4 now, and the way they're losing is getting progressively worse. So versus IU, I can jog your memory a bit. Versus IU was really a one-possession game. Purdue had the ball with a chance to, I believe, tie it. Or take the lead. I think they were down 2. And they turned it over, and IU scored on a breakout dunk, breakaway dunk, whatever you want to call it. Then at Northwestern, Purdue wilted under the pressure of many things down the stretch, which was unusual for a Purdue team. Really, this Purdue team hasn't done that much this season, hasn't wilted down the stretch. In fact, one of their telltale characteristics, one of the things that really defined this team was their ability to handle pressure. The guards seemingly were impervious to it, especially early in the season. And then tonight, Purdue completely was dismantled in the final, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. There was really no doubt Purdue was going to lose at about the 7-minute mark. I think it was a 20-point game, 22-point game, something like that. I could go back and look at the game cast to be specific, but I'm not going to do it right now. If you're here, you're probably, thanks to the people that are tuning in live, really appreciate you guys. Tough thing to do after a game like that, but maybe you're like me. So I got to tell you, I can review a little bit why Jay and I started this site 16 and a half years ago, was one of the reasons was the catharsis of after a loss being able to talk amongst your friends. And we used to have an email thread, and we would talk on Monday. And it was really more about Purdue football at that time, because Purdue football was relatively a newly successful entity to us. I mean, that's not true. That's not fair. They were. There was more novelty to it. That's not fair. Purdue basketball has been very successful for much of life, except for a couple blips. I think, judging on what I'm looking at, okay, I think we as Purdue fans are in kind of an unusual stanza here. Purdue doesn't do this very often, collapse in February. In fact, the times they've collapsed in February are pretty tough to find. Generally, Matt Painter and Gene Cady before him kind of owned February. Last year, Purdue lost two games down the stretch in the final, I think, 3 or 4. One of them was to number 10 Wisconsin at Wisconsin. Another one was at Michigan State. They lost by a total of 6 points. But what they're doing here is if you believe in momentum and you watch a lot of sports, you've played sports, Purdue's momentum is gone, and that's an interesting thing. So they're at that. They're at a crossroads. They're at a tipping point, however you want to say it. They've got to decide what the season's going to be for them. And just beating Ohio State really isn't enough to rectify the thing. I thought tonight was a very important game coming in. I almost did a quick cast this afternoon. I still want to, let me do something real quick before I get much more into the game. I want to say how much I appreciate and respect some of the cool heads on the Purdue team. If you've seen some of the videos that came out after the Northwestern game, Gillis was absolutely in the middle of a mob, and the mob was one of those things where the whole thing was flexing, right? And he pushed some students, and I'd say, yep, you got to push your way out of there, because if you don't, who knows? You're outnumbered thousands to one. So he pushed some guys, but he didn't throw any punches. And he's a big, strong guy. If he throws some punches, he probably gets arrested. Changes the entire trajectory of the season. Zach Edey kept his head as well. Coach Painter even kept his head. All of them decided to bite their tongues in postgame and kind of deal with the high emotion they had. They were all angry. They were all let down. And so coming into this game, I thought, what do you do with that anger? And I keep saying this. I'll keep saying this. A loss isn't just by itself. It doesn't just sit on an island. A loss is part of a season, right? And what do they do with this thing? I remember years and years ago when the baby boilers were kind of starting to set fire in a good way to the Purdue basketball program. They lost to Wofford in December. And that game seemed awful because Purdue wasn't looking great early in that season. They lost to Wofford, and that kind of galvanized the team. They got together, and I think they all asked the question, what do you guys want this season to be? Well, Purdue's team has to do the same thing right now. The one thing that's really, really interesting, one really, really great silver lining that comes out of tonight, Braden Smith, if all you guys want to say he hit the freshman wall, because many Boiled Sports team members, many of the Boiled Sports people said that he had hit the freshman wall along with Fletch Lawyer. If he hit that wall, I said this on Twitter, if he hit that wall, it was a brick wall and he blasted through it. And he did it by sheer will. Tonight, he was the go-to guy. He was the one guy that if Purdue needed a bucket, they'd get it from him. And they got it from a bunch of different ways. He was shooting pretty well. He had an air ball, but he was shooting pretty well. He was driving the ball very well. He was great on defense. He had an amazing block shot from behind where I can't remember. I think it was First was in the blocks on a Maryland player. Guy tried to pump fake, went up. Smith came from behind, just destroyed the ball. Probably popped it. A little joke. But Braden Smith did everything he could tonight. Zach Edey's struggling. He's clearly struggling. At the end of the game, he was doing some of his old bad habits, meaning not getting squared up before he shoots that hook. Now, was there poor officiating? Yes, there was. Maryland didn't have a foul called him in the first 16 minutes. So I'm like kind of damned if I do, damned if I don't. I hope you guys understand this. Last game I said I don't want to complain about officials after a loss because it seems like sour grapes. I really am very okay with complaining about officials after a win, like making that the theme because it matters. Because you want to complain when you're in a position of power. Big Ten officials are horrible when you're on the road. They just are. And tonight was no exception. Maryland, I think they had 4 fouls in the first half that were legit, and then they had a bunch of cheap ones at the end they were just trying to use up. But you don't run a press, and you're not the smaller team without fouling. It doesn't work that way in basketball, and I watched it with my own eyes. It doesn't work that way. Is that the reason Purdue lost? No, not even close. We can blame officials and say they changed the tenor of a game, but at some point Purdue's got to say, you got to deal with this crap. This is college basketball. And it is. This is what college basketball has become. This is what it is. My dad said this 20-something years ago. I think I've told some of you guys, maybe you've heard it, that he can't stand watching college basketball because the officiating affects the way the game is played so much. You don't just come in and play the game. You play within the constraints of what that crew decides to do. In the second half, they started off and they called an uneven game. Again, well, that's not true. It's like there was a switch that was flipped, right? In the first 4 minutes, Purdue's playing a very wide open game. They're moving the ball well and moving without the ball. And then everything changes. Then they start blowing whistles. Gillis gets a tech called, which the thing that's amazing to me, you can be angry at a play and you can say, okay, the refs are going to call a tight whistle. Tech him up when a guy does something when he's demonstrative. Okay, fine. A second later, A second later, one of the Maryland power forwards got mad going to break, and he was yelling as he was going to the bench back at the court. And I don't know if he's yelling at Purdue. I don't know who he's yelling at, but the refs didn't have any issue with that. That was not an issue. But with Gillis, that tech was, that was the point that changed everything. After that, the game went to hell. Andy Mesmerel, buddy, says they have lost their swagger. Freshmen look tired. Andy, Braden Smith was incredible. I don't know if you can lump all the freshmen together. You can say he looked tired, but Braden Smith was absolutely the only thing Purdue had going for minutes at a time. So I don't think you can do that. I think you can say Fletch Lawyer has hit a wall. I think it's official. I think we're at 3 games now where he has either missed a bunch of shots or not been able to generate any space. He's getting knocked down a lot. He's not getting up very quickly. I counted 4 fouls early in the game where he was driving or trying to run off picks where he just got knocked on his shoulders, not his ass. He's a very light guy, and they wouldn't call it. Or he would drive, he would get beaten up, and they wouldn't call it. So there is something happening here. These guys are all tired. I mean, Edey looks tired, but this is the whole thing. Nothing is a fuel. Nothing is an adrenaline boost like winning a game you're not supposed to. You've seen it if you've been here a while, meaning around Purdue basketball a while. When Purdue gets on one of those runs, back in February, I can think of different seasons, but one of them was the Baby Boilers senior season, when Hummel wasn't playing, and that team hit the rhythm. They had a lot of games they had to play in a close proximity to one another, but they powered through it because they're like, okay, bigger things are happening. This team is the exact opposite right now. Right now, they are struggling mentally. They are struggling physically. They have had games that are in closer proximity. Right now, they're in a normal rhythm of a Big Ten season where you're playing a weeknight game, a weekend game, a weeknight game, a weekend game. They had 2 weeks in a row, Thursday, Sunday. Plenty of time to get in there, take a deep breath. But the freshmen do look like freshmen. I'll say that. Except Smith played so damn well. I can't say that. Lawyer looks like a freshman. And it might be, I don't know what to do there. Maybe it's time for Painter to just give the things a little bit of shake-up, have Lawyer come off the bench, and maybe start Big Dave. I don't know. This is why he gets paid a ton of money. Something's got to be shaken up, though. I think going with the same exact formula, it's not working right now. And I'm not one of these people that says, oh, they figured out the formula. The formula is Purdue's beating themselves. They're turning the ball over a lot early in games. I mean, Edey had a turnover in the first 20 seconds. And then I think he had a second turnover about a minute and a half, 2 minutes later. I'll look at the stats now because I've talked a lot, got a little windy. But like I said, Purdue loses 54-68. Felt a lot worse than that. They followed 23-4, still pretty damn good. But I wonder how the computers are going to rely or give this one. It's funny. Somebody said before the game, if Purdue handled their business and beat Maryland by a significant amount, they could have lost they could have lost a quad one win early in the season. Or 2, if in that case. They would have lost 2 because it was possible Maryland could have gotten dropped down to the next line. Well, no problem there. This is a quad one loss, and earlier was a quad one win, definitely now. But Purdue is, like I said, I think they're teetering. Not like, I mean, let's just not make things into a bigger deal than they are. I mean, you can't live and die by this stuff. I'm too old to do that. You're too old to do that, probably, even if you're in your teens. I'll just give you some advice. You can't live and die by this stuff. But, boy, that sucks to lose a game that badly with this team, because this team has been so much different, and it's not they don't have dents in the armor. They have the armor has been ripped open. There's lots of vulnerability now. Referring back to Braden Smith, he had 18 points. He had 3 rebounds. He had 3 assists. He had 2 steals. He had a block. He only had 2 turnovers. So you can say whatever you want. If you want to paint with a broad brush, say all the freshmen are hitting a wall, I think that's foolishness. I don't think it's fair. Braden Smith played great. And I don't have the minutes how many minutes he played, but he played a lot of minutes like he does every damn game. Painter gave him a nice long break early in the half. I think Jenkins came in. Jenkins made he looked like he was struggling against the press more than Smith was. Smith, again, is the only guy that seems to be able to handle a press. And early in the season, when they could handle the press, it was because Smith was doing it. Let's make no bones about it. Great news is he is a freshman, and we got lots of years ahead of this, and he's going to get better and better. He and Lawyer both are going to bulk up. They're going to be stronger next year. They're going to look like even different players. But Lawyer, 6 points. Let's see. Not a lot of turnovers. 1 turnover, but only 6 points, and I think he only shot the ball. Yeah, he only shot the ball 9 times. 2 for 9. Edie, 18 points. Here's the big difference, though. 8 rebounds. I guess that's kind of close to his average, but let me put this right into the next point. Purdue got beaten on the glass badly tonight. That is a huge deal for this Purdue team. I think they've only gotten beaten on the glass once this year, and it was like by 2 or 3 boards. They got beaten on the glass by 13 boards tonight. And we can say whatever we want about officiating and whatever. Getting beaten by 13 on the board against a team that doesn't have the size that you do, it's a big deal. Okay, Purdue shot their free throws well, but they only shot 10 of them. They didn't get to the line a lot. Purdue shot the three-pointer horribly, 2 of 13 from the line. Let's see. Off the bench, Brandon Newman played a pretty promising game, I'd say. He had an important 3 that felt like it could have kept the game from just falling apart about 6-7 minutes into the second half, if I remember correctly. And it didn't keep things together. Things did fall apart. Kaufman is struggling. I would say if you want to... he's struggling with the physical nature, which is funny. He looked so good in the early season wanting that contact. Now that contact is really, it's different. It's obviously different when it's the Wild West in the lane, which it is every night in the Big Ten on the road. He's getting beaten on pretty good, and he's not handling it well. That's all there is to it. First 0 points, 1 rebound. Morton, 0 points. No steals, 1 assist, 4 rebounds. Maryland took the fight to Purdue. Maryland won going away. So next up, Purdue plays Ohio State at Purdue. Just if you want to look down the stretch, I'll go over the season. I'll go over the remaining schedule real quickly. Ohio State at home on Sunday. Then they have an entire week rest before 6 days before IU comes to Mackey. And if you can handle your business versus Ohio State and at least hold things together enough to get a victory, maybe that week is a week where they can figure some things out, have internal meetings, watch film to say, what were we doing differently then versus now? The problem that I have, the thing I think that's happening is just the fact that veterans, when I say veterans, that's a very long term. It used to be veterans might be a 4 or 5 year difference from a freshman to a senior. Six tops, right? 6 year senior tops. Now, veterans are old, right? These guys are 23 years old. And I think, I believe, Lawyer is 19 years old. So you're a 26-year-old, 25-year-old, whatever ridiculous number you've got because all the extra eligibility so many people have. And Purdue's taking advantage of it too. Jenkins is not a young guy. I think it's his 6th year out of high school. But that's a big difference. That's a big difference. Those guards are men. And a year ago, he was playing against guys some nights that were about my height. I mean, I'm 5'4", but he was playing 5'7", 5'8" guys. Yeah, you're gonna get a night where you can really do some damage when you're 6'2" to 6'4". I think he's grown a little bit this year, so he's probably 6'4" now. He's probably 6'2" last year. It's a big difference. Big difference. So you've got Ohio State at Mackey, Indiana at Mackey, Wisconsin in the Kohl Center, and then Senior Day versus Illinois at Mackey again. There you go. And I think the bigger thing, the worst thing for me is they've affected their seeding. That's the thing that bothers me more than anything about tonight's game. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I really wanted that 1 or 2 seed. That's always the thing for me. And I thought, so another thing, they're 1 game up. If you're a big Ten championship person, like that's a big deal to you. They're 1 game up with 5 games to play. Is that what I said? 1, 2, 4 games to play. Gosh darn it, doesn't matter. But they've got plenty of ways to win this Big Ten championship, if that's your thing. My whole thing is got to win 4 out of 5 here. I think it's 5 games. 1, 2, 4. Got to win 3 out of 4 games. Got to win 3 out of 4 games. Got to win your first game in the Big Ten tournament to even have a chance at a high seed in the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. And that's really my whole my focus right now. So I'm not going to go through yeah, I'm not going to go through all the comments because I disagree with a lot of things that are being said, and I don't want to get angry tonight. I've already had frustration, let myself simmer down. I'm not going to do it. But I do appreciate everybody's tuning in really very much. Let me see something really quickly. But I appreciate all you guys who tune in live. And we'll see you again soon. Maybe I'll have some sort of quick cast before the Ohio State game, but that's Sunday evening. I think Sunday evening. Nope. Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m. Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m. And if you're like a lot of Purdue fans, you're excited, you got your ticket. It's an expensive ticket to have right now. So good for you. Enjoy the game. I do not have tickets for this one, and it's not because I don't want them. But thanks for tuning in. Like I said, it's one loss. These are just 3 losses. They've got 4 on the season, and they don't sit out there. Andy, you're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Good to hear from you, too. Hope you and your family are well. But it's 1 loss. They have 4 losses on a season. Guys like Andy Messmer and I, he's a fellow late 90s grad. You're welcome, Michael Hogg. Yeah, so Ben Cotton. Okay, I'll read that comment because, again, if you want to get a burger and you want to get a pint and you want to get some delicious junk food, you go to AJ's. AJ's on Vine. Do that. And, so potentially very good days ahead still, or potentially some days that are heartbreakers ahead. I don't know how else to say it, but I do. I think Purdue has a lot of work left to get the seed that I was hoping for this year. My beard is lumpy, and I just noticed that. It's almost bad to have a monitor when you look at that. Maybe I need a change. Maybe I'm the problem with Purdue's recent run. Ms. Boiler Dowd, should I shave my beard? I don't know. She doesn't like that. So, but God bless you. Hammer down. Talk to you soon. We'll see you either after the Ohio State game or maybe before, but that's probably not likely. I'm going to be venting for a while. God bless you. Hammer down. We'll see you. I don't know.